Okay, I'm going to continue with a discussion of file types. This is a pretty basic discussion of audio file types, and there's a lot out there about this. We'll probably get deeper into it. This is just for kind of in the immediate term things I think we need to know. So I'm going to talk about two types of audio types, audio file types, MP3 and WAV. And I'm going to look at where we would use each of those. So let's say in the previous video, I talked about exporting this beat as a MIDI item that I could recall for this or other projects. Now, this is very handy as a MIDI item because it includes all my velocity data that I can alter and edit. It can be manipulated and I could change the beat slightly. I could do all that. But let's say I'm collaborating with someone who doesn't have this virtual instrument, and I want to create an audio loop for them to use in a project. So what I do here is I would set my timeline again to this item. And what I want to do now is I'm going to choose from file, I'm going to choose render, which is what we use to create an audio file. And I'm going to have the source be my master mix right now. And I'm going to choose the time selection here, and I'm going to browse for directory because I always want to know where I'm putting stuff. And here I've got a folder already made, but you could make one called Beat Audio Files. So I am now going to save to that file. Now, let's go back here. And I also want to just point out the format here is WAV, right? I have a lot of different choices. What's important about WAV is it's one of the lossless audio files. So I am not compressing or damaging my audio in any way. The downside is that these files tend to be rather large. So if it were like a whole song, it'd be too large to send in an email. But if I want to save a beat that somebody might use in a project, I want to make sure that the audio is top quality, right? I don't want to be compressing it. So I'm going to use WAV, and I'm going to render that one file. And you see here, when you see me drag stuff from below, it's because I have two monitors. So there's my audio file, and I can check it out. I can open the folder where it is, and here it is, right? So now let's move some of this stuff out of the way. I'm going to click close, right? And I'm just going to create another track here in my Reaper project. Double click, right? Drag this down a little bit. I'm going to mute my first track there so we can't hear that. And I'm going to drag in my shuffle, right? And so now we're only hearing this track. And notice what you see is the audio waveform now. You're not seeing MIDI, and there's nothing I can do really to go in and edit this beat. It is what it is. Let's listen to it. Sounds pretty much like the other one, right? And I can loop it just like the other one, right? So I can loop audio. Right, so that's pretty handy. I don't have all of the editing features that I have in a MIDI file. And generally speaking, if I had to choose between which one of these I'd want to work with, if it's a MIDI, if it's not a live drummer, I definitely would love to have the virtual instrument and have the MIDI track. But this is a good use of a WAV loop, and we could create a WAV loop library. And the good thing about that is anybody you share it with doesn't need to have this particular instrument set up, but there's very limited editing. I can't change, for instance, the level of grit or reverb. Now, that other audio type that a lot of people know a lot about is MP3. So now I'm going to mute this one. I'll unmute this one. And an example of a situation where you might want to save an MP3 is, let's say you want to, oops, oh my, that's my cat sitting on the screen. Let's say you want to take this whole beat that I played you before. Let's just select that whole area, and you want to export it and email it to a friend of yours, right? Or you know, that's one example. You want to have a small, compact file. So in this case, it might be appropriate to choose MP3. I'm going to choose render, right? I'm still going to make sure that it's my time selection that I'm doing. And, you know, I could browse for a directory. I always want to know where it's going. And I could put it here, or I could put it somewhere else. Probably wouldn't leave it here, but for now I will. And I could call it halftime shuffle with fills, and go down here to the format and choose MP3, right? And then I've got choices about the quality. 192 is pretty good quality, but not huge, especially for this. And I can render that, and you can see it sort of happening here. I can open the folder. Here's my MP3. Now, what I wouldn't do with this MP3 is I wouldn't use it in a song, right? I wouldn't drag. I mean, I could, right? And there's not really, like, you won't see a big difference. I could drag it right in there. They look pretty similar, but this is a compressed audio file that does not have the same fidelity. And if I'm going to be processing it further and working on it, I really don't want to use an MP3 in that case. I want the best quality audio. A WAV file is good. An AIF file is good. Okay, hope that's helpful. More soon.